And we are pleased to welcome here to the NCSL table Senator Eric Berthel of Watertown, Connecticut, in the Senate for a while now. But before that, you've been around the State House. You've served in the House.
Yeah, cut my teeth in the House
back in 2014. So
correct. Yeah,
veteran. You've been to these sessions, I'm guessing, before too.
So this is actually my first NCSL conference.
All right.
And I've been to there's so many great organizations across the country that support legislators and staff and elected officials.
You were saving yourself for Indianapolis.
I was saving myself
forget
for Indy.
Honolulu, forget Miami, wherever.
I actually was in Honolulu for that other organization's annual meeting. I was selected as a toll fellow through them. But at any rate, it's great. It's great to be in Indy. It's a wonderful city, and NCL is really amazing. There's so much good stuff here.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, this is like more than 6,000 attendees. A lot of those are lawmakers, staff, a very important role as well. And that leads me to ask you, there is so much, there are sessions on everything from artificial intelligence to something at the end of the alphabet. I don't know, probably something about zebras, but what do you hope to get out of this?
So, you know what, I have the very distinct honor of serving on leadership on a few committees within the legislature, one being appropriations. As a minority party member of the legislature, I'm a ranking as opposed to a chair, but appropriations is one of the committees that I serve on. But I'm also on the education committee in the same capacity. And I think that Connecticut has a very high standing with respect to overall quality of the delivery of public education. But we have these tremendous gaps when you look at our rural communities versus our inner city. And I think that we've begun to take the right strides to close that gap. And the biggest part of that is funding. And in this past session, which was our long year, we finished in June, we were able to pass a very appropriate budget that has actually resulted in the increase in some funding for public schools. And I think that, and it's not just throwing more money at a problem, it's actually prescribed, and we'll do some good things and begin to change that problem we have. But clearly here at this event, I'm looking at education discussions and seeing if we can take something back. This is 50 states. Every state is here, along with some of the islands and whatnot, and there's great ideas that come out of these conferences that you normally would not have an opportunity to get.
And when you talk about education, it's interesting that subdivides into, well, ask a state legislator what that means, and it might mean a teacher accountability or school accountability. It might mean parent rights. It might mean what materials, textbook materials. It might mean union representation of teachers. So it's interesting. Do you find that all of this is useful to you, or something that an educator in Texas or Wyoming is still of value to you in these sessions?
It's a great question, and yes, because I think that that all the states are different. I don't think anyone has the same exact delivery of public education, public school education. But there's great ideas that come out. We have some really terrible things we do in Connecticut, right? They're bad ideas, but we've also been along the way a trendsetter, or we've set the high bar for something, right? So when you can come to a place like this, it's nonpartisan when you're talking to someone from the other party. We're not in a chamber debating a bill or policy or whatever it is. So it's kind of a safe place to go and share ideas. And why not take something that is working really well in Texas and bring it back to Connecticut and see if we can make it fit and apply it to what we're doing.
And I've often quipped that it's, when you pick up and glean information from other states, it might be you either want to imitate or emulate something, or you might say, boy, that was a stinker.
Let's not do that.
Absolutely. Somebody else has sustained the bruises that you don't have to.
Yeah.
What is the process? You go to these sessions, you go back, your head filled with ideas. If I were to come visit you at your state house a year from now and I looked at bills you'd introduced, is it an oversimplification to say, oh, this is the one where a line was drawn from session number 2 on day number 2, or is it much more nuanced? Is it just about networking? Is it much more about gleaning and understanding issues?
So perhaps we might see that direct line for something, but I think we what I've taken away, and again, this is my first time for NCSL, but what I've taken away from other conferences is the ability to maybe speak to someone in another state, a legislator in another state who's on a different party, whatever, and have that conversation and get to what you just said. You know, you had that real stinker in Ohio. How do we avoid that? Because it looks like we're kind of heading in that direction by no fault of our own. It's just happening. How did you fix it? You can pick up a phone or shoot an email or run into, I've run into people here that I met at other conferences, which is kind of neat, and the networking value in this is what's very hard to explain, I think, until you've lived it, and you can be sitting at a table and, hey, I'm from whatever state, and you exchange business cards, and maybe a month from now, I'm like, wait a minute. I remember meeting Representative so-and-so, and she has a great idea. And what have you.
Yeah, I mean, states have a certain amount of independence, but nobody has a monopoly on good ideas. Of course, the challenge these days is defining what's a stinker and what's a great idea. You have two different opinions about which it is. It might be in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. Let me ask you one other thing. I know you're busy, and I appreciate the time you've taken thus far.
Thank you.
And you were in the House, now you're in the Senate, so you get the process. We all took civics back in high school, longer ago for some of us than others.
Sure.
But people, I get frustrated sometimes. A lot of folks just don't seem to be invested in the political process in terms of being knowledgeable voters about what goes on. They think you probably get on a plane and go to Washington every week during sessions.
Right.
What do you? There's the open-ended question. What do people need to know about what you and your colleagues do in your state and around the country that wear the title of state legislator?
So you know what, John, that's a really tremendous question. I probably could talk about that for the rest of the afternoon, and of course we only have a couple of minutes. But I think that the most important thing for anyone that's watching, whether it's here in Indiana or someone back in the Nutmeg State, back in Connecticut, is that people need to be more involved in their government. I'm pretty outgoing. I know, you're never as popular or well known as you think you are, but people need to be involved. And we answer calls all the time in our office where people have complaints or concerns about issues that are going on. And if you really are passionate about something, whether it's in a bad way or a good way, some issue, some idea, some problem that exists in the state level of government, then know who your legislators are, know who your state rep is, know who your state senator is, and get involved. I'm not saying you got to run for office, but when a bill is having a public hearing, get up there and testify and make your voice heard. The legislature is the voice of the people, right? That's the branch of government that's supposed to do that. And I encourage people. I have people that come up to me back in my district and will ask me, how do I get my voice heard? What do I do, right? And I don't care what party you are. I don't care what you look like, whatever. Everyone is an equal player in this. And that's when government really works. I'll leave it with this, I guess, right? We talk about voter turnout all the time. You get a municipal election, you'll get 12% of the electorate turns out. Like, really? 12% you're electing a mayor or a first selectman? Maybe there's a budget issue and only 12% come out. The best election ever would be where you had 100% of the voters turn out. Because now you've truly heard from the voice of the people in that town or that city or that county or whatever it is. Okay, that would be the best election ever. It's great when we see 75, 80% in big presidentials and whatnot.
Which we don't see often enough.
I
think I hear a standing ovation from over the soundproof walls here. I mean, that RD, whatever party, everybody can agree that
people need to be involved.
I think people would be surprised how much impact. I was going to say a letter. I'm old enough to think people still write an email or whatever. A phone call. People, you do listen. I mean, you and your brother. I mean, because a lot of people don't take the time to express their views.
And I can tell you that in my office we are passionate about when people reach out to us, whether it's a phone call, a text message, email, on social media, through our website. We get back to people, and we often don't have the answer that they want to hear. Right?
But there's an answer.
And we've responded to them, and that's a critical part of being a good representative of the people.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate your thoughts on public service, your thoughts on this conference, and your priorities for your state. Senator Eric Berthel, Watertown, Connecticut, Republican. I thank you very much.
Thank you.